Hello everyone. This Sunday's reading is a series of meetings that Jesus has with people. Yes, with people, not via Zoom or Google Meet, really in person. Remember those days? Hopefully soon we will be able to zoom out and back into a more normal life and have conversations face to face once more. In our reading, John details something like 5 meetings, including a prayer group, individual meetings with Mary and Martha, and then Jesus meets Lazarus. And Lazarus is alive again, and we eavesdrop on a council meeting which highlights the importance of Jesus' coming death. We're in chapter 11 of John's Gospel this week, where Jesus raises Lazarus. This is probably Jesus' greatest earthly miracle, isn't it? And the commentator Dale Bruner summarizes the chapter like this. He says, Lazarus' sisters in Bethany send a message to Jesus on the other side of the Jordan River, telling him of Lazarus' serious sickness. Jesus mysteriously delays coming to help them. The disciples hesitate coming along because of the danger in the neighborhood of Judean Bethany at that time. But in his own time, Jesus does come. And when he finally arrives 4 days late, it seems, Martha shows marvelous faith, but Mary a less impressive faith. Then, after an emotional interlude, Jesus majestically yet simply raises Lazarus from death, moving many observers understandably to faith in Jesus, but moving others who learn of Jesus' deed less understandably to a deep and even deadly hostility against him. And the chapter has a strange ending. Jesus' enemies, the leaders of the people of God, are planning to execute him. To execute the man who had just conquered death, when their leader prophesies, maybe unconsciously but very explicitly, that Jesus' death will be one that not only substitutes for the people of God, but will also gather together the scattered children of God from everywhere. The chapter is a series of meetings where Jesus has to respond to the sisters' cries for help, the disciples' worries about what Jesus intends to do, individual discussions with Martha and Mary about belief and trust, and then Lazarus is raised and Jesus seems proven right. There's a great hope from this Messiah, and one of the leaders understands how that hope might flow from Jesus' death and resurrection. But overall, the council choose to start planning for Jesus' death anyway. Yes, this is some miracle story, isn't it? A great big picture of the hope that God holds out to us through Jesus. Yes, but the meetings Jesus holds with such a range of people bring out different responses to him, don't they? These are, after all, people, and we only have to look around ourselves each day to see so many different responses to the message of the church. The disciples, they worry. We probably feel like that quite often. The disciples worry about how to react to what seems a dangerous journey on the one hand, and a lack of sympathy from Jesus on the other. They have to decide how to react. And to reassure them, Jesus offers a strange proverb. It's become known as the daylight proverb. Daylight, he says, means something like safe walking. But God's will is even clearer than daylight, he says. The clear will of God more than cancels all other dangers. Jesus knows this, and so passes this advice on to his disciples of all time, to help us all face our tomorrows of different decisions. Jesus deals with many aspects that we as simple humans have to grasp as we face the future. We need to find people we trust, don't we, as we work out just how to react to a variety of situations that we meet in life. And here in John's Gospel, Jesus meets the same Martha and Mary that we meet in Luke's Gospel. Active Martha and passive Mary. And while in Luke's Gospel, Luke praises the spiritual Mary, in John's Gospel, it is Martha who is the heroine here. Even though Jesus is late in arriving, Martha gets up to meet him the moment she hears he has arrived. She is honest in telling him of her disappointment in him. She has developed what we would call these days deep resilience. And it's a trait we in the church need to build lots of these days, isn't it? Then Jesus tells Martha he is the resurrection and life, and those who believe in me will live, he says. They will never die. But then Jesus tells Martha about this resurrection and this life. And he looks her in the eye and he asks a personal question of Martha. It's a question we all have to answer today too. He says, "Do you believe this, Martha? Do you believe this?" How do you answer that question? He asks Martha, "Do you believe this?" And look closely at the reading. You'll find that Martha chooses not to answer that question. I maybe wonder, what does that mean for Martha's faith? Would we like to dodge such questions? But Martha doesn't actually dodge the question. She chooses what is maybe a very honest answer to offer Jesus. The question was, "Do you believe this, Martha?" She says, "Yes, Lord, I have come to believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world. I trust in you," she's saying. It's almost impossible to understand the promises that Jesus makes sometimes if you don't already know the Easter story ending to the Gospels. But believing that Jesus is someone you can trust is enough for Martha. Martha can do just that. The great Messiah is in her presence. This is something for us to strive for today, isn't it? The great Messiah is in her presence. The great Messiah is in our presence. Martha praises the friend who came too late to help. And in doing so, she shows us a glimpse of not just her deep faith, but of the convincing power of Jesus' presence with us. This week, we look forward to thinking about this amazing story in a little bit more detail, a story that brings out so much of what is involved in following Jesus. It is an emotional, trusting, believing, relationship-building story that we will gather to celebrate and think about this Sunday. And as this reading ends in a great statement of hope, not as you might expect from Jesus' followers, but amazingly from a member of the council against him, we are asked to think about what Jesus does on the cross when he dies and then is risen again on Easter Day, because a senior member of the group, the council that's against him, has reported back to the council what Jesus had done when he raised Lazarus from the dead. And then he himself wonders what they're going to do. And this council member who's brought the news, he says, "Look, don't you see, the best thing that could ever happen to you is for this one man to die in the place of all the scattered children of God, in the place of us." And of course, that is what happens on a cross on Good Friday. Jesus will die instead of us, and that thrilling, reassuring, hope-filled action remakes history. It is still the action we act out in every celebration of communion, and Jesus asks us to act it out and express it in many ways every time we tell the good news in our lives. So from this day onward, a plan is made to execute Jesus in John's Gospel. The leaders plan to put to death the one man who has just shown his power over death and promises the great worldwide hope of the Messiah, the hope that Isaiah and Amos and other prophets have been speaking about for centuries before this time. So join us for Worship Live this Sunday at 10:30 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube. The service will, as usual, include music from a number of our members and friends, and I'm very thankful for the help that so many give in preparing these services every week. And remember, next Wednesday we will publish our 6th Lent talk on Facebook and YouTube. This week, Norma from Dramoke Durris will be looking at how we can look for echoes of God's story of Jesus in the books that we read and on the television programs we watch, and use these stories to build bridges to the good news in our world that we share with the people we meet. So I look forward to gathering with you for worship on Sunday. Bye.